Hi there! If you ever feel confused about eating disorders and disordered eating, you want to keep watching this video because today I will be debunking some myths about eating disorder patterns. My name is Milda and I help women make peace with food and their bodies. And as the world we live in right now, probably everyone knows someone with an eating disorder, or either someone who had one or someone who's still struggling with it. Either it's a friend's friend, or maybe someone you went to school with. So the prevalence of eating disorders is definitely increasing, yet there is very little knowledge of what it really is and what it isn't. Last week was National Eating Disorder Awareness Week, and from that week I've noticed that there is still quite a lot of myths to do with disordered eating. So today I wanted to look into a few of those with you in a little bit more detail. So myth number one is that someone who's struggling with an eating disorder can only be thin. So that's absolutely not true, because eating disorders come in all shapes and sizes. Someone who's struggling with an eating disorder might be, I guess what we often think is that eating disorders are only anorexia and bulimia. However, a majority of people that struggle with an eating disorder aren't even underweight. So that shows that there are other eating disorders out there as well that maybe we're not as familiar with, such as binge eating disorder, orthorexia, or other specified feeding and eating disorders. Acronym is OSPED. So yeah, just really looking into the eating disorders. And another myth that I wanted to speak to you about is that only white middle-class adolescent girls can get eating disorders. And once again, that is absolutely not true, because eating disorders someone who's suffering from an eating disorder can be male or female, and it is not dependent on their cultural, socioeconomic background. So some recent research in New Zealand and Australia has shown that 25% of males have anorexia and bulimia, and 40% of those struggling with eating disorders have binge eating disorder, which actually shows it's almost half. So quite alarming numbers indeed. Another another myth that I wanted to speak to you about today is that strict rules about eating or fad diets are not a problem. So once again, it might not be a problem, but research shows that a majority of people with eating disorders have started exactly that way. So what that means is that sometimes we think, okay, dieting a little bit, that won't really make a difference. But if you ever have been on a diet 5 or more times in your life, you will start to notice how dieting starts to impact other areas of your life, like social life as well. And what I mean by that is that it may start a little bit like good food, bad food, fattening foods, and next thing you know, you might be really struggling to choose something on the menu when you're out. Which also leads me on to another myth, which is dieting is a normal part of life. So of course, we can see that eating disorders can be harmful. However, we still don't tend to recognize that dieting also has a huge effect on disordered eating. And majority of people tend to think that dieting is normal part of growing up. And if you ask anyone with an eating disorder, you will see that majority of the time, the way it all started was through dieting. And of course, I'm not saying that everyone who's ever dieted will develop an eating disorder. And of course, there's benefits to moderate, sustained changes in exercise and diet, which can be safe and definitely have got positives to that. However, some statistics from New Zealand show that 75% of girls in high schools feel that they're fat or want to lose weight. So this is something really quite alarming, and it's becoming more and more prevalent. So I really hope that you enjoyed this video and it helped you to get some clarity around disordered eating. See you soon.